The US House of Congress is going after Wikipedia. And if you take a closer look, there's a conspiracy at play. Last week, the House of Representatives sent a letter to the Wikimedia Foundation, basically the foundation that hosts Wikipedia, and they made some rather, I would say, serious accusations and demands. This is the letter that was sent to Wikimedia, and what it basically accuses them of is that they are hosting foreign operations and individuals that are swaying US public opinion. And very, very specifically, they mean about nothing else except Western audiences being exposed to information that is anti-Semitic and anti-Israel. But as you will see along the way, this has nothing to do with anti-Semitism. It is specifically to do with anti-Israel, and this will get specified very clearly by the end of this letter itself. So they have about 6 demands, but here are 2 which I think are very, very interesting. First off is just records of the Wikimedia's arbitration committee, and talking about basically which editors you had that you've basically had disputes with or punished. But the second, or rather the 4th demand is interesting. They want Wikimedia to dox its editors, especially those that have been subject to actions by the arbitration committee. That is wild. And finally, which makes it very clear, it only is concerned with the state of Israel. Interesting, isn't it? These are very serious claims being made by the US government against Wikipedia. And the main one is basically foreign operations being run through Wikipedia. That's what I entered with, but it gets way more interesting and personal when we take a closer look. See, there are 2 citations in this letter. Citation number 3, I couldn't find. But then we have citation number 2, which is basically a study that says that governments use AI models and so on and so forth to basically infiltrate Wikipedia and put forth their narratives. Now that is something I kind of expect if you've been paying attention, especially someone in India. You've probably seen how the government has its IT cells, right? BJP has its IT cells, I'm sure now Congress has it too, but they are strategically employing people full-time to go on Wikipedia and news channels and forums and tilting conversations, tilting facts, getting rid of any positive mentions of their opposition and trying to bolster support and praise whoever is employing them. I am not surprised that Wikipedia is being targeted by it because it's basically the go-to encyclopedia for everyone on the internet for quite a many years now. So I'm not surprised by that. But it's the first citation that we have to be concerned with. It's a report written by the ADL, and that is where the accusation of anti-Israeli propaganda comes into play. It's a report that claims that it has proof that Wikipedia is being controlled by a group of rogue editors who are out there convincing the American public of anti-Israeli information. And this report is hosted on their website. It's called Editing for Hate. I would not recommend you go and read it because it's absolutely horseshit. Now, because I had to read this sorry excuse of a report and spend a lot of hours doing it, I will make a separate video dedicated to technically tearing into it. I will not talk about the context and the wider issues at hand, but I will talk about how this is a bad report. Like, this kind of report should not even pass conceptualization. The moment you talk about it, someone should come and just like smack you on the head and tell you, no, you're being paid to do this. This is not first year of university. Unacceptable. We cannot do this. If you do this, we'll be a laughing stock for the rest of the professional world. But they did. They did this, and now just reading this, I thought I was like probably, in the wrong, because I could not believe that me, a nobody, was able to see so many flaws in this report to the point that this report is foundationally weak. It should not exist. But everything I will put in a separate video. No, actually I won't be posting that video because it is way too long, way too boring. Just doesn't make any sense for me to post it. But I'll give you the TLDR. The entire report has no evidence of what they're talking about. The data they say is not verifiable. It's hidden somewhere, and at this point it's too late to publish it. But even the data they make their assumptions on, they don't actually present anything. Some of the data I looked at was contradictory to what they're saying, and actually the Wikipedia editors who are supposed to be so malicious, they are just doing what editors are supposed to be doing. They do say that the editors are behaving weird, and that's primarily because they compare them to editors on pages like the US-China page, because we are supposed to ignore the fact that there's an active conflict happening on one of the issues. So yeah, I mean, as you'd expect, the page for Israel and Palestine, that's supposed to have more edits. It's a really, I would say, active topic. So they just say, hey, this page has a lot more edits. These editors, they spend a lot more time editing. And then basically the main complaint they have is that the Israeli perspective is not being put forth. And so they keep conflating a balanced point of view with a neutral point of view, which is what Wikipedia has. And that's the whole paper on it. In a gist, I will not go into detail. If you really want to know, leave a comment, and if there's enough demand for it, I will edit that video and post it in. But for now, let's focus on what is important so we can move further along this little conspiracy that we're seeing. What you mainly need to know is that the ADL is accusing Wikipedia of having a group of editors that is dedicated to revising narratives about Jews and Israel. And in the report, they make this far more malicious. But here's the crazy one. In case you were just not believing the fact that this report is bad and you think I'm just saying this out of some personal bias, no. Read this. The research to uncover this coordination was painstaking and time sensitive, requiring resources that neither most Wikipedians or editors nor the Wikimedia Foundation have available. Did they hire Mossad to go and spy on these people? Or is this just a case of the evidence? Trust me, bro, I got it, just trust me. It's I could not believe this is ADL. This is supposed to be the ADL. Where else am I going to look for more credible writing in the arts outside academia? One thing I want you to focus on in this report, however, is the recommendations. This report itself was recommending that it should be used. Remember, it was just published recently, and then a couple months later, we have this that letter we saw previously. But here we start seeing things like banning IP-only editing and basically having subject experts, mostly for Israel, who will basically do a reputable expert program. They'll be the ones deciding what should be allowed on Wikipedia and what shouldn't be. It's a rather subtle way of having the official government-approved message as the facts. This is not new, right? This kind of approach to censoring public information, even if in India, if you look at it, before we had the information age, and even further before, I would say, a lot of the official history was whatever the king and queen decided. Whatever the court was told would be kept on record, and everything else just washed away. Which is why if you're a historian or if you academically do study history, you know it's very hard and rather painstaking to piece together the same information from different sources and trying to verify and basically understand where the common threads are, trying to understand the biases of each source so you can put together something with at least a bit of certainty. But you have to wonder, why is the ADL going after Wikipedia, right? What ticked them off to be batting for the Israeli government in the American courts and Congress? Well, according to Wikipedia, in 2020, the ADL was training its own staff to edit Wikipedia pages. But after the project caused Wikipedia editors to criticize this as a conflict of interest, the ADL suspended the project in 2021. The ADL was doing exactly what it's now accusing Wikipedia of doing, except in the exact opposite direction. They're saying Wikipedia is anti-Israeli, but they wanted to be there doing pro-Israeli arguments. And listen, if you're thinking, hey, you're being a little hyperbolic, you haven't said anything about the ADL being pro-Israeli, maybe they're just trying to do good. They're like, hey, the Israeli government is being stepped upon. They are the victims here. Let us stand up for them. Let us stand up for this Jewish ethno-state. Could be the case. And that's definitely a legitimate hypothesis to entertain. On that regard, I came across this 2021 article from the Jewish Currents. It talks about how the ADL's Israel advocacy undermines its civil rights work. So basically, the ADL used to do civil rights work in the past and still does when it comes to Jewish Americans, but it has started to do more and more for the Israeli government. And it seems to be happening primarily because that's where the donations are coming from. And this new CEO is really pushing for that. So even the Jewish community is aware that the ADL is becoming very much a mouthpiece for the Israeli government or whatever they want. And I will not be an idiot here and say that, now I have to give the benefit of the doubt for the Israeli government to be unbiased. No, nobody is unbiased. That is pretty much the reality. That was in 2021. In 2024, Wikipedia itself had to review ADL as a source. And that's a much more recent thing. That might also be something that really bothers the ADL at this point. Wikipedia came to the conclusion that when it comes to the Israel-Palestine conflict, ADL is not a reliable source. And that might just be the reason why the ADL is upset. It has been basically prevented from putting its own versions and biases onto the Wikipedia platform. That's a bit of a testament that I have found while I was researching for this video, is that even though we all know, and anyone who's had any formal education in the last 25 years knows, that Wikipedia, as much as it's a good source, can't be cited for anything, right? We understand that it can be edited by anyone, there are volunteers, there's no chain of accountability when it comes to the edits. Or accountability at least in the form of that there is no professional who puts their own professional qualifications against it to say that what they're putting there is to a professional standard or a reputable standard or whatever standard that the profession demands. So in journalism, there's usually a journalist, an editor, a publication that will put their name and reputation and professionalism behind whatever they publish. That's not the case with Wikipedia. That's why Wikipedia does not get the same seriousness or I would say respect when it comes to other encyclopedias like Encyclopedia Britannica. But as much as we can't cite it, we do appreciate it. It has its own place in human society. Wikipedia is Wikipedia. It is its own beautiful little thing. It doesn't have to be an academic institution. It doesn't have to be Encyclopedia Britannica. It doesn't have to be a newspaper. And basically what we're seeing so far is them being accused of being what they are, a volunteer collective source of knowledge. I see nothing wrong with it, and I see these frivolous attempts to go after them rather weird, and even the Wikipedia Foundation sees it, right? In April of this year, a similar letter was put forth through the US Department of Justice through Edward R. Martin Jr., right? He's a United States attorney, and what he's basically accused is of Wikipedia is the same thing, that hey, you have foreign actors who are manipulating information and spreading propaganda to the American public. Now again, there are no sources, they're just blatantly throwing accusations. What can I expect? When you have power, you do what you want, everything else is an excuse. And Wikipedia does recognize it, right? Not just the fact that what's happening behind the background and why they're being treated this way, but this very judge is also someone who is known for, using thinly justified legal threats against media organizations and doing that even to medical journalists. These are journals that basically publish academic data, accusing them of partisan in scientific debates, being partisan in them. And I can only guess it has to do with abortions because that apparently is now a partisan issue. And so the ADL is pushing the American Justice Department, the Republican Congress, to go after Wikipedia and its tax-exempt status, more of a threat. We'll take away your tax-exempt status if you don't listen to us. It's doing that so that Wikipedia hosts, and Wikipedia itself is really that this is an entire conflict to find that Israel has of editors, and they basically push wars or whatever you want to call propaganda onto its platform. This is not the first attempt. India has actually done this before. They've gone after them, but eventually the Indian Supreme Court said no. That's it. Leave Wikipedia alone. This is as blatant a conspiracy as it gets. This administration, we get to see it play the same thing out in real time. But I don't think what's also most important from this whole proceeding, but because it will go on, a congressional hearing will happen. The American Supreme Court will not behave like the Indian Supreme Court because this one is obedient to Trump and Trump is obedient to Israel and whatever. I really do believe that whole conspiracy theory that Jeffrey Epstein had material that he was collecting for Mossad, and now Israel has all that dirty material on Donald Trump to basically, because there's no one else, not even Americans get the amount of favoritism Donald Trump has for Israel. So it's crazy. I don't know what to believe. It's just a stupid, unfounded conspiracy theory covered by so many layers of ambiguity that we don't know what's exactly going to happen. But what we do know is that the future landscape of any tech, any platform, anything like Wikipedia, which is basically one of the few good things of society that we've managed to come up due to human ingenuity and principles, all of those platforms will be defined by such rulings, whatever comes out of this whole thing. And maybe in the future there will be a market where a company like Sweden, for example, right now it's supposed to be very privacy centric. Maybe we'll need more of that. Maybe entire countries can have economies on just having good data privacy or open internet, because that's changing. If you're keeping a watch on the news, the open internet is already mostly gone, but it's in the coming years it's going to be more or less a thing of the past. We'll basically tell stories about when the internet used to be free and open. It's almost not there yet. Like on this platform, you can't talk much about the Israel conflict happening right now, because YouTube is basically making quite a lot of money by supplying cloud services and training its AI on this conflict through the Israeli government. So no amount of criticism is going to be accepted, even if you are a Google employee. If you find this interesting as well, give the video a like and maybe subscribe for more such content. I'll see you next time.